What's up, Buttercups? Welcome to Mean Age Daydream with me, your bald and beautiful host, Brian McWilliams. We have a lot of different items to get into today, including an inevitable syntax, which really is just par for the course and plays perfectly into the entire social media monitoring CBDC type China system, which all of the elites and socialists in our governments want. But before we talk about that, let me remind you that we have a Patreon and we have a Locals. If you want to get in and support our show, what we do here, well, you can get on that with patreon.com/Lions of Liberty or lionsofliberty.locals.com. Get morning rants, get our bonus degenerate gamblers and meme wars shows, get Do Nothing Man. I know I keep talking about it. The reason I have not made Do Nothing Man, guys, is actually because I've been playing with Sora, I've been playing with Midjourney, I've been playing with Grok Imagine to try to see if I can actually create a cartoon version of Do Nothing Man. So it's been slowing me down because I'm trying to figure out how to get it together, how to create the character, how to get the exact prompts in place to try to create something like a 5-minute video with the script along with it. So it's tricky, but it's exciting to do because it's something I've wanted to do for a long time. So that's where we're at with Do Nothing Man. It is coming. I'm just trying to figure it out. If I can't do it, I'll just do the audio one. But I mean, it'd be so much fun to actually have a cartoon. Okay, let's get back into it. So, as I mentioned, let me preface this by saying what we've seen occur in China, right? China was the forebearer of the social credit system. Now, the social credit system in China, your social media is monitored at all times. It is linked to your bank account. It is linked to your travel. It is linked to your passport. And they can essentially shut down what you can and can't do based upon how you have been performing as a, quote, citizen within that society. Now, this I just saw actually play out in a video of a Chinese woman who was talking about how she got her dinged. I guess she was complaining about something on social media. And by the way, there's an interesting thing with an actor who died mysteriously in China. And the government tried to cover up the death in, not allowing people to talk about it, not allowing reporting on it, not discussing how and why it happened. It was a guy who'd fallen off of a building and supposedly had been arguing with the elites in China about the system and now how their entertainment system worked. And these people were very highly tied into government operatives. So there's a lot of suspicion around the death of this young actor. But this has now inspired a lot of people to join the Leave the CCP movement, to defy the government, to find, again, ways to get around the government and talk about these things. So it's curious to see. I mean, wouldn't it be something if the death of this actor actually caused the people of China to rise up? But regardless, this woman was telling a story about how she had essentially had her bank account shut off. Her ability to use her cards and bank account to even do things like buy food had been disabled. And she had to have her relatives buy her like a SIM card or not a SIM card, like a prepaid card in order to go and get the basic necessities of life. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about the social credit system. Now, the UK has essentially adopted a version of this. Now, they don't have a full CBDC, a central bank digital currency yet, but they have full authoritarian style gone and started arresting people for posting memes, for doing things like putting British flags up, just psychotic things. I just read a story, by the way, unrelated to the social media, but a woman poured coffee down a drain in the street and was fined 150 pounds because that was considered polluting the environment. I mean, they are psychotic over there. But the inevitable goal is to control what you can and can't spend your money on. And this is also something that King Charles had voiced a few years ago, talking about, we're in a war, on climate. Now, what that means is during war, you're allowed to ration what people can and can't do. You're allowed to control spending. You're allowed to control what people are allowed to spend their money on. That's all tied into this, right? They want to control your ability to live and especially to live freely. So why am I talking about this? Well, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who is an openly and avowed socialist piece of garbage, has driven that, Chicago, you thought under Lori Lightfoot it couldn't get any worse. Well, it did under Brandon Johnson, excuse me. Worse crime, massive budget defaults. They are so far in debt. I mean, over $1 billion in debt as a city. They have no corporations that want to operate there. You're not getting and drawing in entrepreneurs. You're not drawing in new business. You have exceptional high taxes. You have exceptional high homelessness. You have exceptional high unemployment rates. Why? Because of these terrible socialist practices that somehow the people of Chicago thought would be a great idea after Lori Lightfoot. Well, they FAFO'd. And now there is a call for Brandon Johnson to resign. Instead of doing so, he is suggesting a brand new sin tax. Not sin tax like the language meter or the grammatical correction, but sin tax as in a sinful action that the government wants to tax you on in order to curb your use of it. Now, he's putting this under the context of, well, this will generate $31 million a year to help our crisis response and city-run mental health clinics. Of course, they need them there because there's so much violence, homelessness, drug abuse, drug-related crime, schizophrenia, you name it, they've got it, just like here in Los Angeles. So $31 million a year by taxing social media platforms 50 cents per active user each month after the first 100,000 users. Now, the truth of this is going to come out in the quote I tell you, because he's saying, oh, this is a measure to raise funds for the city. Now, that's on its face nonsense, because you shouldn't just randomly tax industries because you want to fund your own city, largesse. But here's the truth of it. Quote, just like we tax other addictive vices that are bad for our health, like nicotine and tobacco, it is far past time to tax social media companies the same way. So there you have it. Now, this is not only going to have a chilling effect because it's going to try to force more social media companies into charging for their services, right? Which then will drive away users. And as we know, social media is one of the few places where it's an open forum for discussion. I mean, there's some exceptions, of course. They're going to remove you if you post some overtly, child molestation content, or you'll get banned for using, specific key phrases, I believe. I still think if you say the N word on X, they'll axe your account or suspend you. But social media is the place where people interact. That is the town square. That is the place where truth has come out, and more truth than the government can possibly keep up with. This is why China controls its social media and limits people to using one thing which the government controls, called WeChat. WeChat. So when Brandon Johnson talks about a sin tax on social media, this has two uses. Number one, this is definitely bleeding into the inevitable attempts by these kind of fuckers to get a system, a social credit system in here. Because if they can tax social media because they view it as a sin, something addictive, something evil for society, well, now they're introducing the concept that if they can sin tax this, well, they can do a lot more with it. They can look and police what you're doing on it. And maybe if you're not using it like a good citizen should, maybe you're watching a little too much on X or scrolling too much on TikTok. Well, guess what? Just like the gas tax we have here, or mileage taxes, they're going to tax you more. They're opening the door to that. And on top of that, you could go next level. Now they've opened the door to taxation. They're going to sin tax you. They're going to charge you more depending on your use of that service. Well, now they can police what you're saying, and now they can fine you just like they're doing in the UK. This is all standard operating procedure for authoritarians. And don't forget, every socialist is an authoritarian. Every socialist is a totalitarian because they want total control of all these systems. They want total control of you, how you spend your money, and they want to make sure that you operate only within the very slim guidelines of what they view as acceptable. And typically, that just tends to lean into what keeps the people like Brandon Johnson, who've been elevated to the status, in power. So screw this idea, but isn't it typical of a socialist to introduce this kind of crap? Yes, it is. Okay, so excuse me, I'm still getting over this little cold, guys. Let me get a sip of my gigantic tea my wife got me. All right. So, no kings. the most ridiculously stupid rally that has ever existed. Of course, there's been back and forth about whether or not these rallies have been supported, funded, propped up by mega donors or not. There was a story that was Representative Paula Luna, I think, was talking about where they had traced dark money networks back to these No Kings rallies. Then I saw counter arguments saying, no, it came from small donors, which I believe. There's enough dumb boomers out there that are 70 plus who are just more than happy to waste their children's inheritance on donating to stupid things like this. But I do believe that without a doubt, there is a lot of big money being funneled into this. Similar to how you had riots being funded with pallets of bricks being dropped off. You have the video of Antifa in Portland and their shelter house where they're hiding material like the tear gas and weaponry and bricks and all this stuff. We know that this happens. We know that pallets get that dropped off for people to use during riots, and someone's paying for that. And I also just think it's hilarious that for these No Kings rallies, what they dropped off were pallets of Depends, because every video that I saw was of 70-year-plus old people tottering out in their wheelchairs and on their walkers and shitting their pants. It was one of the more embarrassing things I've ever seen. They kept using, by the way, old videos in media reports, recycled videos to make these crowds look bigger than they were. Like, oh my God, look at the streets are filled. No, they weren't. Garbage, maybe a couple places. I saw in Boston specifically, they reused a video from like 4 or 5 years ago, the exact same video, just repurposed it to show this quote unquote massive No Kings Day crowd. It's the people that are still buying into this, that think that there's a king, are the exact same doofuses that went along with every COVID lie, that were happy to shut down the government, that were happy to tell you that you should die, that were happy to allow the Biden administration to censor the internet, to censor what was and what's not truth, what scientists were capable of saying. They were more than happy to support California removing doctors' licenses if you didn't go along with the COVID madness and vaccine mandates. These people are the biggest hypocrites on the planet. There are no bigger hypocrites than people that are on the left. And that's just flat out truth. Although, maybe the people that are anti-gay that then go and get blowjobs and bang man whores, those are also very big hypocrites. I'll say that. But the idea that these people truly believe in their hearts that Donald Trump is a king, when they feted Joe Biden and Obama like a king, and when they're looking at these people take executive motions and executive actions that are far beyond the scope of what's permissible. And look, Trump has too. But the precedent has been set. And I've talked about this before, how I hate executive orders. I can't stand them. But I understand the need when you have all of these hundreds of executive orders being handed down that are completely unconstitutional, that are completely anti-freedom, that are completely, against basic common sense in a lot of instances, especially when it comes to trans stuff and gender ideology and education of children and safe spaces for women. I understand the use of executive orders, that you have to try to even that out and claw it back, especially when you've got a coward Congress that won't get it done. But to see these people out there legitimately, crying about no kings, our democracy. Oh my God. I mean, it's all old people who, I swear to God, at this point in time, have their own form of dementia. It's not just Trump dementia syndrome or Trump, what do you call it? I can blank another word. It's not just a Trump derangement. There you go, syndrome. It's a legitimate, these old boomers are fucking losing their minds. And it's not just, there's more than just old boomers. Let me share my screen here. I'm trying something different. I'm using a different monitor, which I think may have been the problem with the slowdown, but who knows? Who knows? Now, this is a video of a No Kings rally, and they've got a giant constitution spread out on the ground, and they are pretending to roll around and be, I guess, ICE agents, but they're lice agents. It's so embarrassing. And again, who's swinging? There's a guy pretending to be Uncle Sam who's beating the lice up. Okay, this one lice guy is clearly a very old man. So these are old ass boomers doing this, by the way. They're wearing bug costumes, wiggling around on the ground, quote unquote, like lice, as Uncle Sam whacks them. And they're all so old. The guy getting off the ground is so old he can barely stand up without breaking a hip. There's a lady in a Statue of Liberty garb going around pretending to spray them with bug spray. These are the people that are out at the No Kings rallies. These are the people that we're supposed to believe are rational, that understand what ramifications executive orders might have, what what impact immigration policy may have. These are supposed to be the quote unquote rational people who believe in science. And this is the kind of retarded shit that they pull out whenever they get an opportunity. I mean, the fact that people took a day off, because I think it was on a weekday, wasn't it? Pretty sure it was on a weekday. Take off work to go do this. Well, who took off work? Nobody, because it was all retired boomers that showed up at these things. But the fact that these people just can't wait to get out there. They make their signs. They make their costumes. They have said, let's get together and make this giant constitution. We'll pretend to be lice. What a great idea, Sally. Oh, God, I can't wait to pop my Viagra later and give you a good one. Or probably Cialis, right? Is that the one for old people to bone? These ice lice people must have had the biggest Cialis-funded, Cialis-fueled orgy, ripping off Depends with their teeth to get at each other's old wrinkled genitals that you've ever seen. And they're thinking, my God, we did it. We stuck it to Trump. Meanwhile, 75% of America only would know that these rallies are going on because the mainstream left media wants you to know. Otherwise, they don't know. They don't care. It didn't disrupt anything in your city. These people are in such a minority, and they're only being amplified because of the remnant skeleton of the corporate press that still exists. And that's being torn down. As you know, CBS just hired Barry Weiss. And while she is definitely not anyone I consider a true conservative or libertarian even, she's at least somebody that is so, a little bit based, slightly. She's left of center, let's say. So ideally, she'll claw some of this madness back. Okay, so there's that. Next thing, a British university. Let me go to this real quick. A British university. It is the University of Nottingham, like where the sheriff of Nottingham is from, presumably. The University of Nottingham is now offering a course titled Decolonizing Tolkien, which I would argue very lazily, because this has been an argument that's been floated around for decades by grifters, that Tolkien wrote the orcs in Lord of the Rings specifically to represent people of color. Yes, that's right. The class led by Dr. Onyeka Nubia, doesn't sound like somebody who'd have an interest in this, does it? Onyeka Nubia argues that the dark-skinned monsters are the so-called, quote, Eastern races of Middle-earth and are examples of anti-African antipathy and ethnic chauvinism. Now, specifically, Tolkien has said, my books are not written to represent anything in this world. He has said that. He's like, there's no allegories here. There's no juxtapositions here. If anybody voices that, they're full of it. Ignore them, right? So he's flat out said this. Let's also not forget that anything that the fact that these people think that the orcs were written to represent black people means that orcs would always have represented black people, right? Okay, well, because that's what we're doing. It's chauvinism. It's white privilege. No, you fucking idiots. No. The orcs were written within a time eternal, by the way, going back to anything representing a fear in the night and another culture that's going to come in and be assaulting or attacking you. It doesn't even mean or represent a specific people. It's kind of like the boogeyman, the Babadook. It's just something in the dark. It's something unknown that's going to come in and threaten your way of life. And you have to fight it against, or you have to fight against it. This shouldn't be a difficult concept to understand. I mean, the Empire, okay, there's somebody that's going to come in. Darth Vader's going to come in and he's going to kick your ass. That's what these things are. They are the bumps in the night. And for this fucking moron to say, well, these are created to be black people, ignores the fact that when these things were created, when the original concept for orcs were thought up, and ogres and witches and dragons and wizards, you didn't fucking have black people around you. I mean, are you going to say that every African myth that talks about people or monsters in the dark, well, are those white people? Because it would be the same basic premise to say so. Of course he wouldn't say that. Why? Because it would be stupid. But no, we're supposed to say this is clearly racism. And now all these students who have to accept this, right? If you take this class, you have to accept this premise. You're not allowed to argue against it. All these students are being forced to accept this premise that an entire generation that's going to this university is now being exposed to this claptrap garbage. And this, in my opinion, is clearly an effort to tear down yet another classic white author, right? We've seen this happen throughout arts and academia. Academia removes all of these predominant white authors from the teaching curriculum. People that wrote amazing books. I mean, you can't read Catcher in the Rye anymore. That's gone. They're removing Shakespeare. They're removing like all sorts of white writers. They're taking them out. Mark Twain. Remove them from the curriculum. Oh, we can't just be teaching. That's a weight pitcher. So let's replace it with all these, minority and ethnic writers instead, with books that maybe are good, maybe you're dog shit. I don't really know. But the premise exists. I mean, look at I think it was the British Museum of Art had a white curator who said, he goes along with this. He's like, okay, yeah, we'll diversity up some of these paintings. He goes, but why? What are we doing? We're taking down masterpieces and we're not bringing in any other white artists. And they fired him for voicing what is a completely rational take. You don't just stop bringing in white people. You don't just stop bringing in white artists. You don't just cease acknowledging any white accomplishments just because you want to get more diversity there. You can have both. You can do it both ways, guys. But that's not how these people think. It is an aggressive cancel tactic. Like, they want to eliminate and obliterate white history. That is what this is about. Make no bones about it. That's what this is about. Trying to get Tolkien's writings labeled as racist so they are eliminated from the cultural lexicon. That's the start and the end of it. Because, like I said, this dumbass argument falls apart basis right away. When you look at the historical context, all of it falls apart. And to say that somehow Tolkien, just Tolkien specifically, was saying that the orcs are black people or the African nations, the dark continent. Where's your proof? I've read those books. There's nothing in there that would possibly remotely be related to that. And of course, you've got asshole woke companies like Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons that are also rewriting the orcs. Oh, the orcs are nice now. Look, they're nice and peaceful. They've got children. They're having a wonderful time. No, they're fucking a violent race. It doesn't mean that they're black people. You can have your black people along the other humans. You can have your black people among the other elves. You can have them be part of the good races. The orcs are evil. They are violent. Now, we can have a conversation about whether or not the morality changes based on your needs and your cultures, and whether or not the orcs are perfectly moral within their value system or intelligence level where they are built to hunt and kill. And that's what orcs do. Is that moral if you're built to hunt and kill? Well, probably is moral within that context. But it doesn't mean that you're not still a threat to the other races that exist there. To pretend otherwise would be stupid. Just as stupid as trying to say that Tolkien is racist. All right. Next on the list. Oh, I'm running out of breath here. My poor little sick lungs. Okay, another one I want to talk about quick to wrap the show up is that, and this is crazy. I haven't seen this in my bank yet. Maybe you have. But again, tying into your social credit system is that an account called Real Carl Vernon says that he's now noticed his bank is giving him his estimated carbon footprint. Now that is some fucking shit. Let me share this real quick. We'll share the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, if you're not looking live here, what we're looking at is here is the bank statement. It says my footprint, and it's breaking it down. This guy's estimated carbon footprint is 2,215 kilograms of CO2. And Roy, he really CO2'd it up in September, and it breaks it down by bills, right? Your electricity bill, your eating out bill, your shopping bill, your transport bill. This is ridiculous. Grocery bills, fun and leisure. Wow, he spent 244 kilograms of CO2 on fun leisure, home and garden, health and beauty, general, income. This ties all into what we were saying about social credit scores, about central bank digital currencies, why we cannot allow all of our funding to go under this program. Because these fuckers now are introducing what is essentially going to become your sin tax again. What's your sin tax? Well, you're abusing the climate. We can't allow you to abuse the climate. We're going to have to tax you in order to buy nonsense. And by the way, 90% scam climate credits. And by the way, how do I know it's a scam? Well, they were the Australian government was scamming people with climate credit nonsense. So you will now have your bank, add up all of your carbon that you're wasting, right? And then they're going to say, okay, here's your arbitrary limit. Maybe this is going to be part of a new EU system. Maybe it's going to be part of a UN system. Who knows? But they're going to tell you, you have reached your limit. We are going to turn off your ability to buy half of these categories. You're not going to be able to eat out. You're not going to be able to go shopping. You're not going to be able to take the bus. You're not going to be able to have fun and leisure. You're not going to be able to go and travel to see your aunt. No, you are a prisoner within the system because you have surpassed your carbon credit limit. And we are your bank and you are fucked. Good luck getting us to unlock this because we're working hand in hand with the government and your money is their money. And once that is merged, that is the end of it. You will be controlled. You will be rationed. You will be living in your 15-minute city, and you will be fucked without violent revolution. That is the path that we're on here. That's the path the UK in specific, by the way, is on here. And this is obviously somewhere in the UK. Mark my words, the UK is on a path to violent revolution because I don't see a way out of this for them. The government does look to be backing down. If anything, it looks to be exacerbating and accelerating this process. So good luck, my British friends. All the best. The Second Amendment. Boy, glad we have it. All right, guys. That's going to be it for today's show. Thank you for joining me on Mean Age Daydream. As a reminder, we've got the porch tour. I will be with Robbie the Fire Bernstein. We were going to do a Friday show in Hawthorne here at my house. We decided logistically it was going to be a little tricky. So now we're doing Sunday in Santa Monica. So those of you in the LA area, Santa Monica, California, this Sunday, the 26th, we'll be doing a live show and then I think a live podcast. We'll be filming some sketch comedy as well. And we're also going to be on the 25th, Saturday, in Aguanga, which is out, I think, towards San Diego or maybe Temecula. I don't know. Just look up Aguanga. But it's an awesome show. Fast Hard Mart's going to be there with us. Fantastic. Hope to see you guys out there slanging some stand-up and some sketch comedy. All right, that's it from me, Brian McWilliams from the Lions of Liberty Network and Mean Age Daydream. Keep those electric eyes on me, babe. Keep that ray gun to my head. Hopefully, I will see you this weekend. Peace. End stream.